This happened years ago when I was still living in Minnesota. It was late at night, and the rain was still coming down hard during my drive, so I was being extra careful. The windshield wipers worked furiously, trying to keep up with the torrential downpour. I had just finished a long day at work, and all I wanted was to get home, get warm, and forget about the miserable weather outside. As I navigated the slick roads, my tired eyes caught a glimpse of something unsettling in my rearview mirror. There, on the side of the road, I saw a woman walking with her child in the pouring rain. My heart sank as I drove by them at first, hoping someone else would stop to help. But a nagging feeling tugged at my conscience, insisting that I offer them a ride to their destination. Reluctantly, I reversed my car and pulled up beside them. Raindrops splattered on the pavement, and I could hear the distant rumble of thunder. I ran out of my car, quickly opened the rear passenger door, and told them to jump in. The woman and her daughter seemed soaked to the bone, their clothes clinging to their shivering bodies. The woman thanked me, and her child gave a weak smile as they climbed into the back seat. I asked them where they were headed, and they said they lived nearby. We had a good conversation during the short drive. The woman appeared to be in her mid-40, and her daughter was probably around 9 or 10 years old. They both seemed friendly and grateful for the help. The rain continued to pound against the car, but for a brief moment, it felt like I had done a good deed. As we approached their destination, I slowed down and turned my head to look at my back seat to bid them farewell. However, what I saw sent a shiver down my spine. It was dead silent. There was nobody sitting in my back seat. I glanced around, thinking they might have quietly exited the car, but there was no way they could have gotten out of my sight without me noticing. I couldn't even hear the sound of a car door opening or closing. Confusion and fear washed over me, but I shrugged it off as a trick of my tired mind. Maybe they had left while I was lost in thought. I continued on my way, eventually arriving home. I entered my house, still perplexed by the strange turn of events, and sat down for dinner with my wife. As we chatted about our day, she mentioned some news she had heard from her friend. A chill ran down my spine as I listened to her story. It was about a major accident that had happened on the main road I used on my daily commute. A truck had careened off the road and struck a car, resulting in a horrific collision. My heart sank as my wife continued, revealing the chilling truth. In that car, there was a mother and her daughter who were pronounced dead at the scene. The description of the woman and her child matched the ones I had picked up earlier that night. My mind raced, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I had offered a ride to two apparitions, spirits lost in the stormy night. The memory of their hauntingly vacant seats in my back car left an indelible mark, reminding me that sometimes on a dark and rainy night, the line between the living and the dead can blur in ways we can never truly comprehend. It was a dark, chilly morning as I was driving back from Fresno on the highway. The road seemed endless, surrounded by empty fields and shadows that made my skin tingle with unease. I had been on this road countless times before, but this morning, something was different. As I was cruising down the highway, the radio playing a soft melody to keep me company, I noticed a peculiar reflection in my rearview mirror. There, on the side of the mirror, I saw something that sent shivers down my spine. It was a figure, a shadowy silhouette, following me. At first, I thought it was just a trick of the light, but it persisted, growing more distinct as the miles rolled on. I couldn't believe my eyes as I stole glances at the figure in the mirror. It was a man, his hair disheveled, and he was holding a small child in her arms. They both looked disheveled, their clothes torn and covered in dirt. It was as if they had just been in a terrible accident. My heart raced as I tried to make sense of what I was seeing. How could they be there, inside my mirror, following me on this lonely highway? I checked my surroundings, but there was no sign of a car crash or any people on the side of the road. It was just me and that eerie presence in the mirror. As I continued to drive, the man and child in the mirror seemed to be getting closer. Their eyes were hollow, their expressions blank, as if they were searching for something or someone. I couldn't shake the feeling that they needed help, but I was too afraid to stop the car. The whole situation was beyond anything I could comprehend. The more I drove, the more I felt an overwhelming sense of dread. The man and child were now right at the edge of the mirror, their outstretched hands almost touching my reflection. I couldn't take it anymore. I pulled over to the side of the road, my heart pounding in my chest. I got out of the car, trembling, and turned to the mirror. But to my horror, there was nothing there. The man and child had vanished, leaving only my own reflection in the mirror. I was left standing alone on that desolate highway, the morning sun beginning to rise. I never understood what I had witnessed that day, and I couldn't shake the feeling that it was something otherworldly. The memory of that strange encounter on the side of the mirror still haunts me, and I can't help but wonder if I had glimpsed something from beyond the realm of the living. I remember it as if it happened just yesterday, though I'm an old grandma now, and this terrifying experience occurred a long time ago in Laos. Back then, our customs and traditions were vastly different from the modern world, especially when it came to dealing with death. In our village, when someone passed away, the entire community would gather for the funeral. The hot, humid air was thick with the stench of rotting corpses, and the flies buzzed incessantly around the decaying bodies. The deceased were not treated with the same reverence as they are in the West. Instead, we had a singular focus during the funerals, chasing the flies away from the putrid remains. After a long and somber day, we retreated to our tiny huts, seeking solace from the oppressive darkness of the night. The only source of warmth and light was a small fire crackling in the corner. We sat on the floor, huddled together, enjoying our meager dinner. My belly full, I decided to offer my assistance in chasing the flies away from the dead. Outside, the world was cloaked in a shroud of eerie silence, punctuated only by the occasional rustle of leaves and the haunting cries of night creatures. As I stood next to the lifeless body, my heart heavy with sorrow and my senses alert, I couldn't help but wonder what awaited us beyond the veil of life. That's when it started, the scratching and the whispering. Faint, barely audible at first, but growing steadily louder. I shivered as the sounds danced along the outside of the bamboo panels of our hut. The elders always warned us never to look, never to engage with whatever lurked in the shadows. But my curiosity got the better of me. With the dim light from the fire flickering in the confined space, I glanced over to where the sounds emanated. Through the slender gaps in the bamboo walls, I saw it. A single malevolent eye staring back at me. It was grotesque, a grotesque luminescent orb that seemed to pulse with a sinister energy. Inexplicably, a long serpentine tongue snaked its way through the crack in the bamboo, reaching toward me, a wicked, elongated appendage with a mind of its own. My heart raced, and I remembered the elder's words. Never open the door and never speak to it. You will only invite it in, and you will be in grave danger. The eye seemed to bore into my soul, as if trying to lure me into a sinister pact. I clutched my chest, unable to tear my gaze away from that ungodly presence. With trembling hands, I backed away from the gap in the bamboo and retreated into the safety of the firelight. The whispers and scratching continued for a while, as if whatever was out there sought to torment me with its malevolence. But I heeded the elder's advice, refusing to acknowledge it, keeping my silence. As the night wore on, the sinister presence outside eventually receded into the darkness, leaving me with a sense of dread that would haunt me for the rest of my days. I've since learned that there are forces in this world that we should never invite, and secrets best left undisturbed. This chilling encounter in my youth still sends shivers down my spine, a reminder that sometimes the unknown is better left untouched in the shadows.